In a bold and potentially far-reaching move, the UK's newly installed Labour government is preparing to shake up the way millions of workers save for retirement. And it all starts with a long-awaited review, one that could affect how much you, your employer, and your future rely on the nation's pension system. Chancellor Rachel Reeves, fresh from taking office, is expected to announce a comprehensive review of the auto-enrolment pension scheme in her highly anticipated Mansion House speech next week. The review, led by the Department for Work and Pensions, could lead to some of the most significant changes in workplace pensions in over a decade. Changes that could ultimately force employers to contribute more to their workers' retirement pots. And for millions of UK workers, that could mean more money for the future, but it could also come with economic consequences for business owners already navigating a challenging climate. At the heart of this review is the recognition of a critical problem: most workers simply aren't saving enough for retirement. The Office for Budget Responsibility, or OBR, recently issued a stark warning. They highlighted what many experts have feared for years, that the current level of savings through auto-enrolment may be setting people up for financial struggle in later life. Currently, workers pay in 5% of their qualifying earnings to a workplace pension scheme, and employers are legally required to contribute an additional 3%. That makes a total of 8% going into the pot. But is 8% enough? According to economists, actuaries, and retirement specialists, the answer is becoming a resounding no. Auto-enrolment was introduced back in 2012 with the intention of nudging people into saving for retirement without requiring them to opt in. For many, it was a revolution in workplace savings. Millions of workers who previously had no private pension savings were automatically enrolled into a scheme through their employer. But now, over a decade later, we're facing a new reality. The system may not be broken, but it may no longer be fit for purpose. The Department for Work and Pensions says it wants to examine how auto-enrolment can evolve to deliver greater security in retirement, more economic growth, and a better standard of living for hard-working people across the UK. And that could mean raising the minimum contributions for both employees and employers, though nothing is set in stone yet. A government spokesperson explained that while no decisions have been made, the forthcoming pensions review will be an important opportunity to make sure that pensions are working harder for savers. They went on to say, quote, "We're reforming the pensions market to drive economic growth, ensure greater security in retirement, and put more money in people's pockets." But behind this polished language is a deeper challenge: how to balance long-term savings with short-term affordability. For workers already stretched thin by high housing costs, rising food bills, and a stagnant real wage environment, any increase in mandatory contributions, even if it's for their future benefit, might feel like a burden they simply can't afford. And for employers, especially small businesses, higher pension contributions might translate into lower profits or even difficult staffing decisions. Nevertheless, the government appears committed to exploring reform, especially as the data continues to show that a significant portion of the population is heading toward retirement with inadequate savings. According to Pensions UK, the trade body representing pension providers, a single pensioner now needs around £43,900 in disposable income per year to maintain a so-called comfortable retirement. That includes occasional luxuries like beauty treatments, theatre trips, and a 2-week European holiday each year. Compare that to the £33,000 required in 2019, and it's easy to see how inflation and lifestyle expectations are reshaping the retirement landscape. And if current trends continue, retirees may need a staggering £58,860 in disposable income by 2030 to achieve the same standard of living. That's before taxes. Once you factor in income tax, national insurance on pension income, and other potential deductions, the gross income required jumps to over £77,000 a year. These aren't just numbers, they are real implications for real people. Many pensioners are already feeling the squeeze, especially those relying heavily on the state pension, which, while protected by the triple lock, only pays a maximum of around £11,500 per year. That's a far cry from the comfort benchmark and makes private pension savings more important than ever. But that leads us back to the question: workers saving enough? And are employers doing their part? Auto-enrolment was never designed to be the only pillar of retirement savings. But for too many, especially low and middle income earners, it's the only savings they have. Without reform, many of today's workers may find themselves entering retirement with insufficient income, forcing them to work longer, depend more on housing wealth, or face a lower standard of living. The Chancellor's upcoming Mansion House speech is expected to tackle these issues head-on. And the review of auto-enrolment contributions will be front and center. But there's another aspect quietly influencing this debate: the role of cash ISAs and tax-free saving. In a somewhat related development, Rachel Reeves is now reportedly backtracking on controversial plans to reduce the tax-free allowance on cash ISAs, a savings vehicle that millions of Brits rely on to protect their interest earnings from HMRC. The original idea was to reduce the allowance and use the tax revenue to fund other priorities, but that plan appears to be on pause. Why? Because pushback from building societies, savers, and the financial sector has been fierce. According to the Financial Times, internal disagreement and concerns from financial institutions have led the Treasury to put the policy on hold. Robin Feith, the CEO of the Building Societies Association, praised the Chancellor for showing restraint. In his words, "This is a good example of HM Treasury actively listening to the industry and committing to a consultation process rather than making hasty decisions." And perhaps that's a sign of things to come. The new Labour government appears cautious but committed to reform. That means taking bold steps like reviewing auto-enrolment contributions while also showing it can listen, adapt, and fine-tune its strategy. Still, big questions remain. Will higher contributions be mandatory for employers? Will the government raise the lower age limit for auto-enrolment to help younger workers start saving earlier? Will self-employed people who are currently excluded from auto-enrolment finally be included? Will the thresholds for qualifying earnings be adjusted to make the system more inclusive? There's also the challenge of educating workers. Surveys consistently show that many people don't know how much they're contributing to their pensions or what kind of retirement income that will generate. Financial literacy remains a major barrier, especially among younger savers and part-time workers. Ultimately, the pension review comes at a critical moment. With over 20 million people now enrolled in workplace pension schemes and more than £3 trillion in pension assets, the stakes are high. This is not just a policy adjustment, it's a generational turning point. If done right, it could secure a more stable future for millions of Britons. But if mismanaged, it could deepen inequality, burden small businesses, and leave a generation unprepared for the cost of retirement. So as Rachel Reeves prepares to take the podium next week and deliver her Mansion House address, the country will be watching closely. Employers, workers, retirees, and the financial world all have a stake in what happens next. Will we see a new pension revolution? Or just another policy that sounds promising but falls short of delivering meaningful change? One thing is certain, the future of retirement in the UK is being decided right now. And we'll be here to keep you informed every step of the way. Stay tuned, subscribe for more updates on